Welcome, sisters, daughters of Hortus, to these blessed halls of Porthbarrow. You have been chosen, honored to the parish, to serve the will of Mother. So come, step forward. Let us see what flowers she's given us. Such radiant blooms, so full of promise. Now, I must confess a change in plans. You shan't be entering the garden today. Take heart, faithful ones. The garden must still be tended. And tonight, you will be sown!
James, good to see you again.
Hey, right.
How did your announcement go?
Oh, mental. We were top spot on IGN for a while. They have their website, and at the top you've got sort of featuring 4 games, I think it is. We were number 1. You know, the games we were next to with their budgets, it's amazing that we're up there, but that happened. And then, it's a load of articles from people, you know, from reputable companies spun up. Like Bloody Disgusting did an article on us, and I can't remember how many we got. We lost count at, I think, 54. It was a whirlwind, and it was amazing for us to see how excited other people are about the concept. And, you know, turns out lots of people want to be scared in a rural British setting. It's been described as Lovecraftian Jurassic Park, and it's also been described as Silent Hill meets rural British setting. She is set on a fictional island. It's entirely overrun and inhabited by a scary cult called the Fallow Parish. And so they are the sort of one of the driving horror aspects within the game. But of course there's this monstrous underbelly that starts to emerge as you play through the game, and that becomes the sort of integral antagonist. So primarily, the game's narrative and the themes explored within the game, they're very dark. We are both excited and sort of proud internally that we're making a game that isn't catered to everyone. This is a game that, as I say, is very dark, and it's something that we want to make. We've wanted to see realised for a long time. Other than that, big fan of the first-person horror genre. We're looking to I wouldn't say redefine, we're looking to really build on that formula. So for example, we're wanting the player to have a lot of agency, where they go, when they go there, that's important to us. But also just generally speaking, how they traverse. Take climbing, for example. We are building systems to make climbing more stressful for the player. And you know, we want to respect the player's time and skill check them as often as possible. So when you're climbing, for example, you control your left and right arm. You know, left trigger, if you're using a controller, is your left arm, right trigger is your right arm. And we make the player hold. You know, you've got to hold onto those ledges, and you've got to hold that trigger down. And you have to find and you know, explore and find your next grip and whatnot, and navigate up, you know, steep surfaces. Now, the reason I mention this, that might sound, who cares, but you mix that with horror, and you know, let's say you're being chased, these suddenly become quite stressful circumstances, and so that's what we're really excited about. And similarly, you know, walking across a plank, we don't just let someone walk across the plank, they've got balance, you know, and there might be variables that make that harder, and again, being chased, you can sort of see where I'm going. So it is a fresh take on first-person horror, is what I'd say. Yeah, awesome question. So this is something I'm really excited about. In short, we're working on it at the moment, and it's not quite ready to show. It doesn't do everything that we want it to do. But one thing that's really important to note is that there is combat. We do not want to make a game that is a power fantasy, so the balance is really delicate. I was inspired by games such as DayZ, and I know it's funny to mention because it's a multiplayer game, different genre. But what I mean by that is, in that game, you're really incentivized to, you know, explore every sort of abandoned house you come across. You know, you might have a gun with only 2 bullets, and then, you know, what I found in that game is you really covet that ammunition. You covet that. That gun's really important to you because you know it's not infinite. You're not just throwing ammunition everywhere. So that's something that we're desperately trying to capture. And also, this is a Lovecraftian game, and I might have mentioned beforehand even that we don't want guns and ammunition to answer all your problems. And in fact, when you use them, we're trying to work on a system whereby it's not necessarily always an advantage. But yeah, certainly it's not ready to show yet, but there is combat in the game for anyone interested. Of course, yeah. So I'll start with the games. Funnily enough, Metro Prime Echoes, huge inspiration. Otherwise, the more sort of slightly more genre-aligning inspirations are Silent Hill, Resident Evil Village. Some elements in that game I absolutely loved. Team as well. Of course, Amnesia: Dark Descent. That was the first-person horror game that I fell in love with. Yeah, there's sort of almost too many to count, really. They're the big ones. In terms of literature, it's very much a Lovecraftian experience, so the Lovecraftian literature really high up there. If you want, in the order, I would say The Thing on the Doorstep, then the Dunwich Horror, and finally Shadow over Innsmouth. Otherwise, other than that, the works of August Derleth, and just all sort of cosmological horror is kind of, there's a lot of the works. Film-wise, I could go on a long time as well. So Robert Eggers, Ari Aster, there's a long list, yeah. We've been around working on other people's games for over 5 years now, sort of since 2019. We're fortunate enough to be a team made up of veterans in the industry. We cannot compete with the likes of those big AAA developers with their hundreds of millions in budget, but what we can do is compete with raw passion and skill in our team. While they're busy talking about season passes and monetization, what we do is we're trying to say, hey, gamers, we're just like you. We love what we do. Would you like to see a game that's created from people who just desperately want to create that game? If so, follow us. That's kind of how I describe internally Verpaint games to people. I describe the game as the opposite of an asset flip. Unscrupulous developers, what they'll do is the idea is they buy a load of asset packs from various stores online, and they smash it all together and they release a game. That is essentially the asset flip. The reason we say we're the opposite is because we really, really care about everything that goes into our title, and we spend far too much time, effort, and money on making sure the authenticity of what we're trying to capture is there. So not only do we source all of our own scan data, every inch of the game has been poured over and handcrafted to hit these sort of really high standards that we set for ourselves. So when we say we're the opposite of an asset flip, that is essentially what we're referring to, the love that goes into everything within the game. And that is something that proof has got to be in the pudding. So we are committed to now starting to show more of the behind the scenes development content. And if anyone's interested, please join our Discord. Unfortunately, I'm in there all the time, but there's far more interesting people than myself. Chanel, our community manager, and ask any questions you have. We're going to start. This is really, the purpose of this is the catalyst of us starting to share more content with the world. And so, if you can come join our Discord, you'll find out, and ultimately, the audience will decide. It's something I'm very confident about, but yeah, we'll see. But yeah, it's mad. The game's looking crazy.
From the man behind the light, there is no escape. That knocking, banging, incessant sound without shape. He's nearing now, and none that I might. There is no escape from the